Welcome back to another first impression, this time for the anime Isekai Office Worker. The other words, books depend on the bean counter. Synopsis on any list. Seiichiro Kondo, a salaryman approaching his 30s, gets caught up in a holy maiden summoning ritual and is transported to a parallel world called Romani Kingdom. Having worked day and night, he developed the mindset of a corporate slave and even demanded work in this new world, which landed him an accounting job at the Royal Accounting Department. During his hectic days rebuilding the accounting department, Seiichiro came across a nutritional tonic that wiped away any fatigue. Thanks to the tonic, Seiichiro's chronic ailments and exhaustion completely disappeared, leaving him overjoyed. But because he had no resistance to the world's magic, the side effect put his life in danger. The only way to survive was to have someone with magic help accustom his body to magic energy. So with no other choice, Seiichiro entrusted himself to Arash, captain of the Third Royal Order, known as the Ice Prince. Okay, that was a long synopsis. Now, I go into these shows mostly blind, not knowing what exactly is going on, what genre. This one, pretty self-explanatory. We have an Isekai. I like Isekai. I feel still there's a lot of potential that can be exploited. Instead of always having the same, Isekai trash. Now this one, a little bit different. Now we have this holy main summoning. Now he is a salaryman. He just goes back home. In an alleyway we have this, summoning circle and a girl being more or less grabbed or, abducted by the summoning circle. Our guy runs in, tries to help her, get summoned into this other world as well. Now, he's our main character, but the story the big part of the story is mostly about the Holy Maiden. The Holy Maiden got summoned because she needs to get rid of this miasma that is going to appear, and our main character just got caught up in it. That is the idea. So the overall arcing story behind the scenes is about the Holy Maiden, but for the show, the main character is our Seiichiro Kondo, the corporate slave. Now he decides, hey, I'm in this new world. This world pretty nice to him. The kingdom is like, we are going to take care of everything. We're going to give you, everything you need to live because we summoned you here. I mean, pretty nice. Because, they more or less abducted these two people. They are willing to give them whatever they need to have a nice life here. Instead of just killing them, which they could have done. But they're, again, pretty nice. Fair enough. Now, our guy, corporate slave mindset is like, I need to work. And so he does. And he's working non-stop, which means that he doesn't get enough sleep. He has bags under his eyes the whole time. So after he finds out these tonics that give him a good nice rest, he's refreshed the next day, he's feeling good, he can work more, he is happy. So he takes more of these tonics. Turns out he is overdosing on these tonics. So he then on death's door needs help, and the captain of the Third Order, Arash, comes across him and is giving him healing magic, which helps negate some of the overdose effects. However, he doesn't have a resistance to the magic because the Holy Maiden got summoned. She has magic and she has magic resistance, but our main character does have none of these. So he gets healed and he then gets magic sickness. So now the, Arash, the captain of the Third Royal Order, he has to help negate that. Now, there are some aspects of the show. First off, again, I'm going in blind. This show is, has BL elements, yaoi. Now, yaoi is not a genre that I particularly enjoy. Now, it is not really a deal breaker necessarily, because, if the story is interesting, I don't mind it too much. Now, in the first episode, I was a little bit questioning why we only had one female character, not knowing the genre of this work. Now it makes a lot more sense how we have a lot of male characters, not a lot of female characters. And, again, if the story is interesting, if it's an interesting isekai, that would not be a problem. But it feels like the main component seems to be the romance between these two characters, which means it is not going to be a show that is going to be for me, and I'm not going to be able to really give it a fair rating at the end of the series, which means I'm not going to review the end of the show, or the show in general. Is I guess 12 episodes, because the first 3 episodes did not really seem that good to me. I don't really like the main character. He is unwilling to learn at all. Now, again, he is in this mindset, sure, understandable, but he is also not very, in my opinion, likable. There are some aspects, as example, because the prince helped him and, more or less rescued him, he's like, okay, I did all this work. I want you to not destroy yourself anymore. And he tries to help him lead a more regular life. Eat well, sleep, take rest, not overwork yourself. But at every corner, in every way, Kondo, or Seiichiro, our main character, he is sabotaging that. He's still overworking. He's still trying to take these tonics, even though he overdosed on those. And he's still unwilling to take any rest or have a balanced diet. Why? Sure, corporate slave, yada yada. At the end of the 3rd episode, we find out the time frame is like 3 months he's here, and he, in my opinion, he did not get better in those 3 months at all. Even though he's more or less getting babysit by Arash, and he's trying his best to get him back on in a good way, but Seiichiro is not getting better at all. Additionally, there were some parts that one of the characters in his office, in his accounting department, is asking him questions about his ward. He is, he wants to know a little bit more. Now, Seiichiro wants to know more about this word as well. He wants to acquire some knowledge. So he's in the same boat. Now, as this character from the department is asking him questions, he decided to just answer randomly. He decided to just fuck with him for no reason. Even though he's in the same boat and potentially wants real answers, if another character wants real answers, he's just fucking with him. I assume this is for a joke, for like some comedy relief, but I find this is a pretty asshole move. And, makes him a little less likable. Even though, another way, this gets me to the other character, the Holy Maiden, which is more or less a side character. Now, the first conversation they really had, they have like this little meeting, the prince is there, it doesn't really matter. The main part is that he and the holy maiden, they have a conversation, and he, as the older character, he's like, okay, I need to take care of, the younger character, but he can't really do much. So he decides, hey, I'm just going to try and give you not necessarily knowledge, but a little bit wisdom. And he's like, okay, we are in this random world. You got summoned here to deal with this miasma. You get this training, whatever. However, you do not know any of these characters. You should be more cautious. That is more or less what he's telling her. You should be a little bit more cautious. Your security is should be the most important thing to you. At least question some of these aspects so that you don't get put into any danger. That is essentially what he's telling her, which is a good thing, in my opinion. You can't be like a knight, you can't be a mage, you can't do all of these things for her, but you can at least caution her a little bit, because you have no connection to this world, and this world has no connection to you. You can be they could just use you to get rid of the miasma. We don't really know how that works. She has some kind of cleansing ritual, whatever. However, that is, be cautious. She answers him in a way that is totally stupid and is like, oh, you mean I should just let everyone die? I should just sacrifice all these people. Which is not what he said. She conveniently built her little straw man that she then berated, which makes her very unlikable. Especially the more we see her, we see her being trained by Arash once a week, and she seems to not take it too serious, which is contra to the stuff she said before. She seems to be interested in Arash, okay, and she wants to, partake in meals with him, maybe get closer to him. Fair enough. But she turns out somewhat unlikable, which is just, was there a reason to make her like this? Just to make our main character, in contrast, more likable? Which, again, I don't really like him. The captain, Arash, he seems like a good dude. He's trying his best. He helped our main character. He healed him. He more or less rescued his life. He's trying to bring him back to, treating himself better so he can live longer. He's not going to die of overworking or drug overdose or magic sickness. This captain is doing a lot of work. He's a model guy. Really, I like him. I also like the prime minister, even though he seems to be doing evil stuff. Or he seems evil. He seems like a very strict guy that is using whatever he can for the betterment of the country. That is what I have. He looks, or he is like that kind of character that may appear ruthless, but he's just doing whatever is best for the country, seemingly. And I can respect a character like that. But that is the main problem. Also, we did not really get much development in the story aspect, in the overarching story. In those 3 episodes, it's mostly about Arash and our main character. Maybe that is a point. Maybe that is it's like a romance between these characters, and that is the main point of the show, which then is not my target demographic. I'm not really a romance guy. You need to have a really good romance for me to be interested in. with characters that are very, that are more or less model characters that communicate well, which these characters do not. At some point, one of the big things why our main character is being overworked is that the Third Order, the budgets that they turn in seem to be wrong. There is something going on, potentially embezzlement, and that is why he has more work, because he's going to decline them, even though the head was always just hand-waving them. He is not the guy. He's like, okay, I have to decline this because these numbers don't add up. Which then naturally brings the Third Order to his doorstep, and they are berating him that he should accept their budget, turn-ins, and he's like, no, I'm not going to. So they turn in another budget, and that he declines as well because the numbers, they don't add up. And this goes back and forth. Now, Arash is the captain of the Third Royal Order, which our main character is declining the budgets for. At some point, we have a little, one-to-one why they eat, and our main character finds out that the captain is not really dealing with the budgets. Someone else is doing that. The captain is very much delegating most of the work, while our main character is delegating zero of his work, even though he's like the vice accountant at some point of the Royal Accounting Department, and he could delegate stuff. He's not willing to do that, while the captain is delegating most, if not all, of the work, which means that the captain has no idea what is happening with the budget. And our main character should have the has the idea that is happening, and in that conversation, which is one-on-one, he could then have like a softball question. Hey, do you have any idea about the budgeting of your, order? And then if that turns out that our captain does not have an idea, which he does not, he could then tell him that there is some problems with the budgeting. The numbers don't add up, which is one of the big points or big reasons why our main character has so much extra work in the day-to-day work. Naturally, he has also extra work because of some other stuff, but this is one of the bigger thorns in his side. To then, he could inform the captain that something is not adding up, so the captain deals with that, so he doesn't have to deal with stupid embedded budgets and then being berated by this Third Royal Order. He does not, because that would, demand communication. Similar, we have a scene where the Holy Maiden tries to heal our main character because he is exhausted, and she just wants to do something good and wants to heal him. Now our captain, Arish, interrupts that, is very possessive of our main character because of the romance aspect. And instead of saying or communicating again that he has no magic resistance and this is not healing him but more or less poisoning him, he's like, no, don't come close to him, he's mine, something along those lines. Which again is a very, that is not communication. Again, if you want me to care about the romance, I need good communication, even if that would be seen as somewhat unrealistic. But I can't really, I don't care about this, oh, we do drama for drama's sake. I do not really like that. Again, this show is not targeted at me, so I am not really going to be that interested. It seems to be mostly romance around these two characters, not really. The Isekai aspect doesn't really matter that much. doesn't really do much in the grand scheme, at least in the first 3 episodes. The story itself is, in the background, it's in the background. Main focus is between these 2 characters, seemingly. There seems to be something in the, not diplomacy, but, in the higher echelons with the prime minister, there could be something going on. Some power struggle, maybe, who knows, with the first prince. But we don't really have that much going, we don't see as much, but I assume there could be something going on. Other than that, I mean, the animation was fine. There's not really a lot of action going on. The world building, there are some interesting aspects. As example, in the picture, you see he has this little cape, half cape, which means, from what I can tell, that he's the vice, whatever. So he is the second highest in his department, while the one that is highest has a full cape. Theoretically, the captain also has a full cape, but he has this, really big cape, which I guess is a little bit different. So there is some world building that I found interesting, and I can see a lot of stuff being used in that idea. We saw different colored quills that have all different kinds of magic effect, but it seems there's not really a system. For me, I like in the world building if we have like systems we use, like the cape. So whenever I see a character that has like this half cape, I know he's the second highest in his department without him having to tell me. If that is correct, and I have seen this correctly. And if it has a full cape, I know he is the highest in his department. Which is, if I'm correct in that assessment, is a good way to have some storytelling without having to force feed people the knowledge. It's like, oh, I can now understand if someone with a full cape, he's the highest in his department. And later on, if he tells me that, I don't need to be told that. Which, it's fine for whenever someone gets introduced. But I know it before you decide to tell me. And that is always really nice in the world building sense. I don't believe the other systems have, or like the magic doesn't really have that system. We do not see that much magic, to be honest, to be fair. But the colored quills do not seem to follow a similar idea, which I found a little bit sad. But we do also not have that much knowledge. It's mostly about the romance. Let's see ratings. AniList has it at 67%. My anime list at 7.07. Now this rating, what I'm going to give you, is totally irrelevant. I'm not going to put it anywhere. I'm not going to put it on these sites, because I'm not going to put my ratings on my anime list or any list without having seen the whole season. This is just a rating I have after the 3 episodes, just to have a number assigned, so I have something to go on for later if I were to decide to review the whole show, which I am most likely not. So I would give it, in these 3 episodes, I would give it a 6. It's meh for me. The characters don't do it for me, so the romance also is not really doing it for me. Because there are also some aspects to that. I don't like the female Holy Maiden character. She seems very unlikable. I like some of the world building that I assume is there. Again, that is a lot of assumptions that I am making. But because it's a romance, the characters are not likable enough for me to care. And because it is yaoi, it doesn't really add much for me. Because this is the main focus. and I am not that interested. Now, I do want to talk about one more thing. This is going to be a spoiler. I try to talk around this without, spoiling anything. Again, this is a spoiler. Now, to get rid of this magic sickness, what we need to do is our main character, Seichiro, needs to get accustomed to Arish's magic. And they do that by, them kissing each other, okay. And then they have to go, quote, all the way, unquote. Which later on we see a little bit of a little picture which seems to indicate they did go all the way in the, which in the grand scheme, I do not dislike if we have a relationship that goes further, and even if it is a little bit faster in that progression, I also have not a problem with that. Even though if it is yaoi, which is not really my thing, not a problem with that at all. However, the captain mostly did it because this is to more or less rescue our main character, which is a little bit weird because there's no real relationship beforehand. So he more or less did it out of the good of his heart, which is fine. But the main character has no real reaction to that. It happened, and he was fine with that, which would mean that he had experience in that vein, or he had no reaction to that happening at all, which is I find a little bit questionable, because if I was in that situation, even, I am straight, so it would be a little bit different for me, but I would have some reaction, even if I was not straight, I was maybe, bi or whatever, to, having gone all the way with someone who I know, like, maybe couple hours at best, who was very off-putting most of the time. Now this is to help me. I would, even as I am now straight, and I would not like that development, I would not hold it up against him. He asked for consent. He was very clear what is going to happen, and it is to save my life. So I would not I would not hold it against him at all. But I feel like I would have some working through to do with that development, because this came pretty quick out of nowhere, and it's like, okay, maybe some internalizing would be fine, but our character's like, it's fine. So much so that later there was some conversation that he would, maybe can use more of these tonics, but he would need to get healed by the captain, which means they would need to go all the way again. And he was like, maybe. I mean, if I can get the tonics, maybe that is okay. Which, again, a little bit not, it felt very blasé. It felt very, at the next day we have him recounting some of the stuff, and he's like, oh, we kissed. Oh, and he's like, oh, so sensual. Oh my God. And it's like, there's some reaction, but going all the way, irrelevant. It's as if it never happened, which is a little bit weird that the kiss is so romantic, but going all the way is like, it's fine, I guess. I'm a little bit sore. It felt weird. it just felt weird that something that I would consider more intimate was just not really internalized as much as the kiss was. So that was already a little bit, and then naturally the one that is interested in the other character seems to be the captain. He seems to like our main character more and more because he takes care of him, he's babysitting him the whole time, and somehow he developed feelings, I guess, which is fine. But the main character is very self-destructive, so... But that is the only thing I wanted to add on here. The whole going all the way was seemingly put on the wayside, which was a little bit weird.